am Sandy Powell. Welcome to the Roundtable. I have a topic today that's been just in my heart and on my mind, and so much controversy around this topic that it doesn't matter which side of it that you hit it on, you're going to have opposition in it. And so because it's such a touchy topic and such a sensitive topic, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there because I don't want people to misunderstand my position and misunderstand what I'm saying. I am definitely a Black Lives Matter supporter. I think that it is necessary for the Black community to be recognized in the fact that Black lives do matter, and in other communities that Black lives do matter. This is my position. I am pro Black Lives Matter. My disclaimer is out there is because I'm going to look at it from another perspective and a different perspective on Black Lives Matter. Because I think that we as a people need to see every front in Black Lives Matter in order to make a difference in this movement. And so I'm going to put this disclaimer out here that no, if you hear that I'm against Black Lives Matter, I'm not. I am definitely for Black Lives Matter, being a Black woman that I am. If I wasn't a Black woman, I would still be a Black Lives Matter supporter. And I think that when people hear Black Lives Matter, they take a position as if they have to defend against or for it, when in actuality, you don't. You just have to recognize that it's a necessity. It is a need. And so I will say this to my Black community, that we are in dire strait and we're in need of some changes. And to our white community, that this is not isolated from you. This is just a part of your community as well that is in hurt and in need. And so we need to recognize when to help someone or something and not necessarily have to have a position against it. We can just be a supporter of it if this is what you believe that matters. Black lives matter. You don't have to be against it, is what I'm saying. You don't have to be against it because Black lives do matter. But in the same turn, I want Black people in our community understand that we first must take a position. And so I'm going to start the topic today because, like I said, it's a touchy topic. I toyed with it because I did not want to touch it wrong and work against what needs to be done or what needs to be said in stirring up conversation about it. So I'm sure that whichever way I throw this rock, I'm going to have some opposition. But this is a position that I want to at least have some conversation about. And so being that this is the round table, this is the place that I feel like we can talk about touchy topics or touchy subjects and hear a perspective to at least consider it so that we can directly understand what someone may be saying or thinking or feeling about a topic. And Black Lives Matter is one of those topics that kind of bring up the worst out of some people sometimes in how they go at it. And so I think that as human beings, we have to learn how to have empathy and sympathy for one another. And in Black Lives Matter, we need to have empathy and sympathy for one another in this, what we call senseless killings. And I think that that's what the Black Lives Matter is about. It's about senseless killings. And if we're going to talk about senseless killings, then we have to address every front of senseless killings. I believe, like my mother used to say, I always say that people will only respect you as much as you respect yourself. In other words, If I don't have any regard for me, then no one else will have regard for me. If I don't set boundaries and if I don't set up perimeters as to how far someone can go against me, if they have a free fall with me and they can do as they will with me, they won't know to back up and back off. And so for that reason, I think that in the Black community, we have lost some of these barriers, some of these things, because we have lost that in our own selves. And now I'm going to put another disclaimer. This is not every Black person. But if it's one Black person, if it's 10 Black persons, if it's 100,000 Black persons, then it's a problem still. We still have to address when it's not everybody in a good place or benefiting of where we are. It's like there's some communities that they don't really have this problem, and they're Black communities. They don't really have senseless killings in their community. But in the case where there is senseless killing still, we can't turn our back on it and say that doesn't affect me or it's not pertaining to me, because it does. So I'm going to jump in here with just some stuff, some thought, and I'm going to just communicate some things. And I want you to at least hear what I'm saying on this topic of Black Lives Matter. We have watched police brutality when it comes down to Black people being brutalized at the hands of those who are supposed to be our protectors and our guards. I've seen it, the videos, like everyone else has. I've seen the different pictures and things that have come out that have shown where some police officers, let's say that, some police officers have misused their authority in mishandling of Black people or brown people. Well, I'm going to venture to say that, all of this misdirecting of authority and all of this really, it comes down to a root of evil. I'll say that. All of it is to a root of evil. But we have to be able to call out the root so that we can now deal with what may bloom from that root. So when we have watched these videos and watched these things of mishandling of authority against Black and brown people, there must be something said or done, and which is where I believe Black Lives Matter actually became birthed. And this is not the first time Black Lives Matter movement has happened. It may have been called different things in the past and history, but it all comes down to civil rights. It all comes down to doing right to people regardless of their race or creed or color. So it gets down to that. But in this case, in the 21st century, it is Black Lives Matter. And so for that reason, we have to address I say the inward enemy and the outward enemy. The outward enemy being the people who are not Black or brown that may brutalize Black or brown people in whatever way, be it in economically, socially, or financially, or physically. This is outside movement against Black or brown people. But then we have to look at the inside. What's happening on the inside of the Black and the brown community? Are we safeguarding ourselves? Are we doing the very best that we can do for ourselves? Are we setting up perimeters or guidelines on how people are to treat us for ourselves? Are we doing the very best when it comes down to how I am interacting with another Black or brown person? To me, we have to address that. This is what this show is about. Addressing the enemy within. And so we're just going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back. I want you to watch this video. This young man, I saw it on Facebook, YouTube rather, and it is very powerful because he's speaking to what I'm speaking to today. He talks about Black people and what we need to do in our own communities. Watch this and we'll be right back to talk about it.
It got hot! Screaming, stop the violence! Like when it's really gonna stop? More in the news got me feeling like deja vu. 3, 4, 5 more shot. Murder rate at an all-time high. KC is getting killed the new way to die. It's a massacre. We slaughtering each other in the middle of the lane. It's petty, the beef frivolous. Without a cause, no life insurance plan. Family setting up GoFundMe's to bury you, man. It's like we love to put your face on the shirt. Love to see our community hurt. Moms crying, aching with pain, holding the remains of her baby. It's a massacre. When the violence gonna stop? Calling all big homies, cousins, uncles, and dads. Smack that youngin' upside the head and take his Glock. Lacy with knowledge, teach him the box.
Yeah.
Give him a hug, man. They missing her love, man. Graveyards and penitentiaries packed with young blacks. I stand on the front line to bring power, love, and unity back. Cause it's a massacre.
Massacre.
Just marinate on that.
Massacre.
I need you to feel this in the heart. Take it back home, dissect it, and play your part.
Yes, sir.
Mentor some, be a role model. Take them under your wing. Teach them the value of another human being.
Right.
This black on black is whack.
Whack.
If we kill us and they kill us, who we got? We ain't living long enough to see if black don't crack. It's a massacre. An attack on black. We so brainwashed with material things, it's hard for us to see that we are kings and queens.
Yeah.
The original beings.
Yeah.
The mathematics of everything.
Everything.
It's a massacre. When the violence gonna stop?
Right now.
So after watching that video, I know that some of you are saying, well, that doesn't have anything to do with Black Lives Matter. But it does. It has everything to do with Black Lives Matter. Because it shows people outside of black and brown people how we value ourselves. And this I know, that we have to put a value on ourselves as a people in order for anyone else to take us serious in what we're saying about our lives matter. I always say that, people will only treat you as bad as you let them. In other words, we're expecting the outside of black and brown people to treat us better than we're treating ourselves. And that this is not, like I said, every black person, but I'm saying where it is a problem, this is where we need to start. We need to start on the inside. And I did like a little bit of an analogy here. And I said, senseless killing is like a house flooding from waters turned on the inside, which is black senseless killings. Whereas on the outside, there's a hose on the outside that's being forced in to flood the house as well, which is on the outside, which is representing black or brown people that are not black or brown. So we have an issue of on the inside, the water's on, and on the outside, water is being forced into this flooded house. And so we're only looking on the outside issue of water being forced into the house to flood the house, but we're not paying attention to the fact that there's water turned on the inside, causing the same, if not more damage to the house. In order to maximize on Black Lives Matter, we are going to have to attack this thing on all frontals, on all angles. We're going to have to look at it at every aspect. And that includes inside and outside hurts, inside and outside dangers, inside and outside senseless killings. We're going to have to take a look at what we need to do to better our community so that our young children don't have to grow up in fear, not just fear of outside killings, but fear of dying at the hands of those who look like us. Dying is dying. I don't know about y'all, but when a person is dead, they're dead. Does it really matter at whose hand that it happened if it was senseless? Do we really kind of pick through the cherries like that and say, To me, senseless killing is senseless killing. And Black Lives Matter must matter mostly to Black people and brown people. We have to take the front movement in Black Lives Matter when it comes down to sustaining the life. And this is the turn that's probably the hardest, because sometimes we're unsure who the enemy is when it's on the inside. Sometimes we're not sure who we're fighting against when it's on the inside. Like when we go to another country and you fight a people that don't look like you and you can distinctly tell who the enemy is, that's an easier fight. But when the enemy looks like you, it's hard. It's a harder fight on the domestic land than it is on the foreign. And this is what I believe makes it easier for us to go on the outside and fight and protest. But we don't seem to have that same fight and protest on the inside. I believe that senseless killings in the Black community has to be addressed in the Black Lives Matter movement. We are going to have a united force, a united stand together as a people in order to overcome this dismissal of who we are when it comes down to Black lives. Okay, so we have to go back to the thought. If Black Lives Matter is about senseless killing, then we have to be inclusive without thinking. And so here, senseless, let's just look at that word. Let's just look at the word senseless. Senseless is unconscious, insensible, pointless, hopeless. It is what is happening in our own community. We have a lot of pointless, unconscionable killings. We have not learned how to settle matters, or we have not learned how to settle disputes where we walk away and live to fight another day. As opposed to being on opposite sides of thought, we think that silencing a person's voice solves the matter in these senseless killings. Where we have people in a Black community and on Columbus, don't be so close-minded to think this because we may not have drive-by shootings in the way that some bigger cities have it, that we are not somehow affected by it. We are, because the mindset is traveling. The mindset is going beyond the borders of the big cities. That's why we're having it in the small capacities in which we're having it here. Like compared to Chicago, we don't compare when it comes down to the senseless killings. But to say that because we're not having it in the capacity in which a bigger city like Chicago may be doing, or Detroit may be doing it, the fact that we have it here with 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 or 20, or last year I think it was 30 something lives that were lost to senseless killings, to things that could have been settled in other ways other than taking the life of another person. Some people were innocent in their death. In compared to what the actual fight was about. We have lost children that just happen to be with a parent that is in dispute with someone else. But because there's no conscience, see, that's what this senseless means. No conscience. That means oblivious, not aware, not thinking. A child dies, or a teenager is killed, or life is taken before the life even gets going good. That young man in the video, he talks about, how do we know that black don't crack? Some of these people are dying way before they're able to even age to see if black don't crack. We're proud about things, and we should be, but the things that are working against our community, we have to attack it. We have to go at it. And senseless killings are one of those things. But it's just not against foreign, it's domestic. It's not with only without of the community, but it's within the community. Because if we were to fix the police brutality part of this thing that we say are senseless murders, and we don't fix the part where it's domestic inside the community where senseless killings are happening, guess what? Black lives are still lost. We still have black children, black teenagers, black elderly, black middle-aged of all spans of age that are dying senselessly, that are dying, and it could be another way to work things out. Because this is what I say. Senseless means, it doesn't mean that we don't get to protect our homes. You know, I'm a firm believer in protecting our home. I'm a firm believer in defending if someone was to come and break into our home. That's called defense. You know, if God forbid, I pray that never happens. But if someone was to break into someone's home and they are killed in that transaction, then to me, the homeowner or the person who was defending themselves has a right to defend their home and the lives that are in that home. But if you make me mad, or you say something about me, or you do something that could be, I say, sat down and talked about, communicated about, come up with another option of addressing the matter. If I take into my hands, or you take into your hands to kill a person because of something said or something done that wasn't life-threatening, to me, that's senseless. And that's what's happening in our black community. And this is the thing. I have to give some of this craziness, I'm going to call it that, some of this craziness to our music industry. Some of this is at the hands of our music industry because we highlight and we sensationalize and we glorify violence. We think that it gives something to our character or who we are as a people to have this violent side of us that we don't take no junk. But in a way that it makes us barbaric because we're not able to have communication one to another and be on opposite ends of the spectrum. See, some people, in the case of me talking about this matter, you know, if it brings you to the thought that you want to bring me harm because I have a perspective, then to me, that's barbaric. That's people that don't know how to sit down and communicate and have dialogue and be on opposite end of the spectrum, but everybody walks away alive. And if we in the black community don't learn how to do this, then guess what's going to happen? This is not going to stay in one portion of the city. This is not going to stay like right here on this side of town. The thing about evil and the thing about this type of mindset, senseless, remember, it's unconscious. It goes everywhere. It will broaden itself. It will no longer be satisfied with victimizing right around here, but it will want to spread and become a part of as much as it can consume. When have we ever known evil to put up boundaries? No, I'm going to tell you what stops evil. When good, righteous people put up boundaries and refuse it to come closer or come any further. You know, I'm talking about this subject, but I'm always talking from the perspective of where God is speaking. I'm never going to talk out of opinion. I'm going to talk from a spiritual aspect because all of this is really just spiritual stuff. You know, what's in a man's heart, he acts out. And so if we don't think that we have to do something in the sense of changing the mind of those who are affected by this, those who are acting out this mentality of senseless killings from domestic, I'm talking on the inside of the community, just like the young man was talking to, it's a massacre. It's a massacre. And so some people take a position and say, well, that's just normal statistics that people kill, you know, within their own community. Okay, I understand that part, but we're talking about senseless killings, just like we're talking about it when it comes down to police brutality. Those are senseless killings, but how many times do we march? How many times do we march for the 1-year-old, the 2-year-old that's sitting in their house and that's just trying to watch cartoons or just trying to have a evening snack? Or how many times do we march to stop that senseless killing? When do we take a position that senseless violence is not tolerated from anyone or anybody? When do we take that position? I beg to differ that Black Lives Matter excludes domestic within the community. I beg to differ that we don't have a responsibility as a Black people and brown people to first turn inward. First, my thing is this: if I respect me, love me, cherish me, esteem me, then people will take on what I think of me. And they will, even if they don't like it, they have to respect it. And sometimes people will treat you like you treat yourself. If you don't think very highly of yourself, people have the tendency to treat you how you think of yourself. And the Black community, this is a responsibility that we have. We may never change the minds of those on the outside of our community. So what do we do then? You can't change prejudice. You can, but it's got to be a willingness from the other party. It's got to be a willingness that they want to do to change. But if they don't want to change, do we not make a change? Do we not still make sure that Black Lives Matter to us? You can put the laws on the books. I get it. But we have many laws on the book that are broken, that are not adhered to when a person has in their heart to do something opposite of what the laws say. It's against the law for police officers to brutalize citizens. That you don't have to make a law for that. That's against the law. That's the same law they're supposed to be upholding. Unfortunately, when you put in the hands of the brutalizer the law, he gets to bend it at his will. So what we must do as a community, we have to, I love the idea of making the police officers accountable. And I'll say this, all the police officers who are doing it right and doing it good, this is not a slight to you. This is not a slight to you for accountability to be in place. You don't have to feel threatened or feel like this is infringing on you all, or this is a slap to police officers. It's not. It's just like any other field of service. There's good and bad in every field. And whenever you don't want accountability, then you're going to allow the bad in that field to run amok. We have every aspect of jobs titles, like we got doctors, and if you have a doctor in there that's practicing bad medicine, see, there's a board he has to answer to. But if no one ever tells that this doctor is practicing bad medicine and that he's misrepresenting what his oath was